The world had already fallen apart when the first of them woke up. For years, the undead had been mindless husks, driven only by hunger, shuffling through the ruins of civilization. But something changed. In the decaying streets of New Chicago, a corpse stirred, not with the aimless twitching of a regular zombie, but with awareness. Its name, his name, had been Lucas Gage. In life, he was a geneticist working on bioweapons for the military, an irony he couldn't fully grasp yet. But as his bloodshot eyes flickered with intelligence, he realized he wasn't like the others. The hunger was still there, gnawing, insatiable. But so was thought. He staggered to his feet, his decayed muscles remembering how to move in ways no zombie should. Around him, the streets were a wasteland of death and ruin. He could hear the growls of the mindless ones nearby, but they didn't attack him. They sensed he was different. Lucas turned his gaze toward a broken store window, staring at his own reflection. His once handsome features were sunken, his flesh peeling, but in his glowing, crimson-tinged eyes, there was intelligence. He could think. He could reason. And if he could, maybe others could too. A distant noise made him turn sharply, gunfire. The living. Lucas's mind reeled with memories of being human, of hiding in a bunker when the virus first spread. He recalled the screams of his wife, the cries of his daughter. They were gone now. The world had abandoned him. The humans would see him as a monster. And maybe he was. But he wouldn't be their prey. He clenched his rotting fingers, flexing them as an idea formed. The zombies had always been the hunters, but never the conquerors. What if that changed? Lucas felt something deep within his undead mind, something like an instinct, but far more sinister. He focused, and the nearby zombies froze in their tracks. It wasn't speech, not exactly. It was a command, a pull in the very fabric of their decayed existence. And they obeyed. A slow smile crept onto his lips. For the first time in history, the dead were about to fight back. The survivors in New Chicago had learned the rules of the new world. Zombies were slow, stupid, and predictable. Their survival depended on that assumption. That's why they never saw the ambush coming. Inside a fortified grocery store-turned-safe house, a group of survivors sat around a dimly lit table. Their leader, a former police officer named Aaron Vance, studied the map before her. Supplies were running low, and they needed a new route to the outer settlements. "We should head west," said Travis, a lanky man with a rifle strapped across his back. "Fewer infected in that direction." "Yeah, but that takes us too close to the river," Aaron countered. "We'd be cornered if something goes wrong." "Nothing ever goes wrong," Travis scoffed. "Zombies don't plan." A loud crash shattered the fragile sense of security. The barricade at the front of the store gave way, and the room erupted into chaos. The dead had broken in, but something was different. Instead of aimless shuffling and blind hunger, these zombies moved with precision. They struck first, lunging for the nearest survivors, tearing into them before they could react. Aaron grabbed her pistol and fired, hitting a zombie square in the forehead. It dropped, but the others didn't flinch. No hesitation. No pause. They moved in unison. Then she saw him. Standing just outside the broken barricade, watching with eerie patience, was Lucas Gage. His dead, glowing eyes locked onto Aaron's. She had fought thousands of zombies before, but never had one looked at her like that. It wasn't hunger. It was strategy. "Fall back," she shouted, dragging a wounded survivor toward the rear exit. The remaining humans scrambled, shooting wildly. Some bullets hit their marks, but for every zombie that fell, another took its place. Lucas stepped forward, raising one decayed hand. The undead paused, shifting their focus. And then they stopped attacking. The surviving humans, panting and bleeding, were left staring at their silent predators. Then Lucas spoke. His voice was dry, unnatural, like a whisper through broken glass. "No more running." The dead were no longer just hunters. They were the beginning of a revolution. Erin Vance's heart pounded as she sprinted through the ruined streets of New Chicago, her breath coming in sharp, desperate gasps. Behind her, the once familiar city had become a hunting ground. The dead weren't just lurking anymore, they were watching, waiting. She had seen it with her own eyes. A zombie had spoken. A damn zombie had commanded the others. She reached the underground bunker, a makeshift sanctuary where over 30 survivors were holed up. The entrance was concealed beneath the wreckage of an old parking garage. She banged on the metal door, her bloodied hands smearing red against the steel. "Open up. It's me." A tense moment passed before the lock clanked, and the door creaked open. A shotgun barrel greeted her before a familiar face appeared, Derek, a burly ex-soldier. His stern expression turned to shock when he saw the terror in her eyes. "Jesus, Erin. What the hell happened?" She pushed past him, stumbling into the dimly lit bunker. The others gathered, murmuring among themselves. "They're changing," she gasped. "The zombies, some of them can think. They planned an attack. One of them spoke to me." Silence. Then laughter. Travis, the same cocky scout who had dismissed her warnings before, leaned against the wall with a smirk. "A talking zombie? You serious? You hit your head out there?" Erin's hands curled into fists. "You weren't there." They moved together, coordinated. "They didn't just attack, they ambushed us." Derek frowned. "You're saying they're evolving?" "I'm saying they already have." The room fell into a tense hush. Some of the survivors exchanged nervous glances, while others outright shook their heads. Travis scoffed. "Look, we've been dealing with these things for years. They're brain-dead corpses. They don't talk, they don't think, and they sure as hell don't strategize." Erin turned to him, her voice sharp. "Then how did I get back alive?" "Huh. They could have torn me apart, but they stopped. That one, Lucas, let me go. He wanted me to come back and tell you." Derek's grip tightened on his shotgun. "Tell us what?" The bunker lights flickered. A deep silence fell over the room. Erin swallowed hard, her next words sending a chill through the survivors. "That we're not at the top of the food chain anymore." Lucas Gage stood at the edge of the city, watching the skyline of New Chicago crumble beneath years of decay. The wind carried the scent of rot and blood, but it no longer disgusted him. It was home now. Behind him, the dead gathered, not in the aimless, stumbling way they once had, but with eerie precision. They were learning. Their vacant stares had turned into something more purposeful. Some could hold weapons, crude and clumsy in their decayed hands. Others could mimic movements, watching him, understanding him. Lucas had tested his control over them. A simple thought, a command without words, and the mindless ones obeyed. They followed him because he was more, because he was the first of something new. And he was no longer alone. Among the sea of rotting bodies, a few others had begun to awaken. Like him, they weren't just driven by hunger. Their eyes held flickers of awareness. The virus had done more than kill them. It had changed them. A hulking figure stepped forward, Darius, once a soldier, now something beyond human. His flesh was torn, his uniform stained with dried blood, but he moved with deliberate strength. "They hide underground," Darius rasped. His voice was raw and used, but it carried intent. "I remember tunnels. Places they think are safe." Lucas nodded. He could feel the humans. Fear had a scent, a presence that lingered like an afterthought in the wind. Erin had run back to them, to warn them. "Good. Let them fear us," Lucas said, his voice stronger than before. "Let them cling to their last illusions of safety." He turned to his growing army. Dozens, then hundreds of undead, all staring at him, awaiting his command. No more waiting. No more wandering. Tonight, we hunt. A tremor ran through the horde. They were ready. Lucas raised a hand, and the dead began to march. The age of the living was over. The bunker had always been safe. Thick steel walls, a single fortified entrance, and a stockpile of weapons made it an impenetrable fortress. The undead never tried to break in before, they never had the thought to. But tonight was different. Erin Vance gripped her rifle, staring at the grainy security monitors. The underground shelter had 3 exits, the main hatch, the emergency tunnel, and a supply vent. The monitors showed the entrance, and the impossible sight beyond it. They were waiting. Not wandering. Not groaning and swaying in their mindless hunger. The dead stood in complete silence outside the bunker. Hundreds of them. Maybe more. "They're watching us," Derek muttered, his grip on his shotgun white-knuckled. Erin swallowed hard. "No. They're waiting." A chill ran through the survivors. The dead didn't wait. They attacked, they clawed, they never stopped moving. But these creatures weren't attacking. Not yet. Travis paced, nervous energy spilling out in his words. This is wrong. They don't do this. This ain't normal. Maybe they're just piling up out there, like they used to, you know? Maybe they'll move on." "No," Erin said firmly. "They won't. They have a leader." The words made the room go still. Derek turned toward her. "You really think that thing, Lucas, can control them?" She met his gaze. "I don't think. I know." A sudden noise made them all jump. A deep, guttural thud against the bunker door. Then another. Then silence. A shiver ran down Erin's spine. This wasn't some mindless horde trying to break in. This was different. It was calculated. A voice crackled through the old bunker's speaker system, a relic of a time when survivors used radio signals to communicate. But what came through wasn't static. It was a voice. Low. Raspy. Rotten. "Come out." Every survivor froze. Someone gasped. Another muttered a prayer. Then the voice spoke again. "We know you're in there." A sharp clang echoed from the emergency exit tunnel. The one place they thought the undead would never find. Travis went pale. "Oh, God." The lights flickered. The steel walls no longer felt strong. The dead weren't waiting anymore. They were coming in. The first scream tore through the bunker like a gunshot. Erin Vance spun toward the emergency tunnel just as the metal hatch buckled inward. Something heavy slammed against it again, bending steel like it was aluminum foil. The lock wouldn't hold. "They found the tunnel, move," she shouted. Panic erupted. Survivors grabbed whatever weapons they could, some fumbling with pistols, others shouldering rifles. But deep down, they all knew the truth. They weren't fighting zombies anymore. They were fighting something else, something smarter. A final crash sent the emergency hatch flying inward. The first creature through wasn't a mindless husk. It was Darius. His massive frame filled the tunnel, his rotting face twisted into something resembling amusement. He raised a broken combat knife in one hand. The dead were armed. Before anyone could react, Darius lunged, his knife plunging into the nearest survivor's throat. Blood sprayed across the concrete walls as more undead poured in behind him. Gunfire erupted. The tight quarters of the bunker turned into chaos, bullets ripping through decayed flesh, screams of the dying mixing with the guttural growls of the undead. Erin fired, her shots landing true, dropping 2 zombies before they reached her. But for every one that fell, another took its place. They weren't running blindly into gunfire. They dodged. They used cover. "This isn't happening," Travis stammered, fumbling with his pistol. Derek grabbed him by the collar. "Snap out of it. We need an escape, now." Erin's mind raced. There was only one way out, the supply vent. A tight squeeze, but it led up to the surface. "This way," she yelled, shoving survivors toward it. One by one, they scrambled up, clawing their way into the vent shaft. But as Erin turned to follow, a shadow blocked her path. Lucas. He stood amidst the carnage, untouched by the bullets whizzing past. His glowing red eyes locked onto hers, and for the first time, Erin felt something she never had before. The prey had become the predator. "You fought well," Lucas rasped, his voice carrying over the screams. "But this is the end." Erin raised her rifle. Lucas moved first. With inhuman speed, he was on her, knocking the weapon from her hands. She swung a knife, but he caught her wrist, his grip cold and crushing. "Join us," he whispered. "You're strong. You don't have to die." She spat in his face. "I'd rather burn." Lucas tilted his head, as if considering her words. Then, he released her. "Run, then," he said simply. "Tell the others." Erin didn't wait. She scrambled into the vent, Lucas's voice echoing behind her. "This world belongs to us now." She clawed her way up, emerging into the night air. The city stretched before her, but it was no longer a city of the living. The dead weren't just roaming. They were marching. And for the first time since the outbreak began, Erin realized. The apocalypse had only just begun. And